Hello my friends, and blessings to you. I haven't done a video in a while, so I thought I'd drag all this equipment out and make one real quick for a few select friends. Now, I know Facebook allows these videos to get a few thousand views if it wants them to, but this is my real life, so I've customized who can see it. But this video is about the cursed mirror that I brought into my house. Now, the reason I customized this video is because people don't believe in a spiritual realm. They don't believe in spirits at all, actually. And that's kind of an oxymoron. And they believe in a Holy Spirit, but their eyes glaze over when the Bible talks about familiar spirits that the wizards and witches kept. It's like they're blind to the very words of Yeshua casting out legion of demons from a man. Or how about the man at the pool that the waters, when moved by a spirit, healed people? Our Messiah, standing right there, never said that it wasn't a spirit moving the water, and he never rebuked those there that day. Okay. Now, I'm going to quickly go back over the story for those who didn't read the post, and I'm going to give a full context since everyone loves a spooky story. But now the first thing you'll notice is none of this scares me. The only time these spirits can do any damage is if I allow them to do it. But you know, they're sneaky little parasites. My home became cursed because I had too much pride as a spiritual soldier. I got comfortable in my battles, so when the time came about the mirror, I had no fear of the bad spirits that I knew were attached to it. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about how this mirror became cursed, but it relates to ritualistic communication with the spirit world. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, some people who know me personally know where this mirror came from, and they're probably laughing as they're watching this video. But when the end of life comes, it'll not be so funny. Anyway, I took this mirror home and invited it into my house, which gave the authority to these spirits to wreck my life. Nothing y'all done. It was my pride. I allowed it to happen. It wasn't like my discernment wasn't warning me before bringing it home. And this pride gave way to weakening my faith, because it is so easy to pretend that the spirit world isn't real, even if you know it is. Same as you watching, you know the spirit world is real when you cry, and at times of depression and confusion, that's when unbelievers can feel the spirit world best. Or hey, music, you know you feel the spirit world then, and even Christmas. That's a well-known spirit everyone welcomes into their homes. And you feel that Christmas spirit. The mirror was large and heavy, and it took two people to carry it. It's so large, I didn't even hang it. I just set it on the floor against the wall. My wife helped me carry it into the office as I said to her, this is probably not a good idea. Wasn't long before we both got sick. I got better, but she never did. Not fully, anyway. There seems to be good days and bad days. And for months, she started sleeping in my office right beside that mirror. Every night, getting sicker and sicker. Now, my wife was so sick, I truly can't believe she's alive today. Finally, we went to the emergency room. Now, We live in the country and the nearest hospital is in the next county, but it's small as well. After one x-ray, the doctor said, "You are a very sick girl," placed her in an ambulance, and sent her to a bigger hospital in Jackson, Tennessee. You know, in the hospital for the first 3 days, they had no idea what was wrong with her. But they put a tube in her lung to drain the fluid, which the doctor said she wouldn't have lived another day without seeking help. And they weren't guaranteeing anything right now. I stay home. I stay at the hospital with her, which is 1.5 hours from our house. So I had to return one time a day to feed the animals. After coming home one of these days, I went downstairs and I seen lots of water damage. The drywall, the paint, all of it was ruined, which is the reason I'm recording this here in this corner. I went upstairs and looked for the water, where it's leaking from, and it turned out to be the drain pipe from the sink had come loose all the way. I'm not talking about a little bit off. I'm talking about completely gone away. Everything we had been draining down the sink was going straight downstairs. So I repair the pipe and I go back to the hospital. One day during these trips, I knew when she came home that she was going to need to have a bed, and that was my office. It used to be a bedroom, so I worked really hard to turn it back into a bedroom, and I put a bed and fix it all up, but I leave that beautiful mirror my wife had been sleeping under for months. It's against the wall at the foot of the bed, reflecting the whole room. You couldn't escape it if you wanted to. It was so large. But after I'd done all that, I was tired. So, I thought I'd grab me an hour's sleep, and I laid down on the bed before heading back to the hospital, and I had no problem falling asleep. But I woke up like wide awake in an instant, like something purposely woke me up, and I seen the mirror was watching me. I'm not talking about my own reflection. I'm talking about legions of demons, and many were outside the glass, yet they were connected to it at the same time. Lots of demons was within this glass, lots. And this is why I have this video set to my friends only. People simply do not believe in a spirit world, even those who believe in a creator. As I said, this mirror is so big and heavy it takes 2 people to move it. But at that moment, I dragged that thing out onto the front porch and I set it with the glass against the house, and then I headed to the hospital. But now I knew why my wife and how my wife became so sick. After 10 days in the hospital, we came home, and the mirror's still on the front porch, and it stayed there for about a week when I had some visitors, and I asked them to help me move this heavy mirror into my garage. So we took it, and I've got a 20 by 40 garage. It's a large garage. So we took it and we leaned it up against the wall inside the garage. And after a few days, I noticed the garage was getting covered in what we call riding spiders. They're orb spiders, and they're beautiful, and they make a big old web. And then right in the center of the web, it looks like they write something out. And that's why we called them writing spiders, because it looks like something's written out within their web. And the folklore is, if this orb spiders write your name in their web, then you're going to die. Of course, it would have to be in English for us to know if it was our name or not. So there's that with that folklore. It could be written in another language. I don't know. It's certainly not in English, so it didn't mean a whole lot to me. But I just thought it was interesting that they showed up, because I've lived here 13 years and never seen one. But now my garage is covered with them. I'm even feeding them locusts and things because I think it's pretty neat. You know, and after a week, they started showing up at the house. And it was always over the doorways. But my front door, I have the name of Yahweh. And they built beside it, being over the door as much as they was able to be over the door without connecting to the name. Still, I haven't put the spiders with the mirror until one day, probably a few weeks or a month after moving the mirror to the garage. I was standing on my front porch and I noticed the garage roof looked like it was sagging in the middle. I go investigate, and right above the mirror, the rafters, the trestles, the rafters had broken, and the entire roof was very close to collapse. It was sagging in the middle. 20 by 40 garage. That's a lot of weight sagging there in that center. And not to mention how dangerous it was for little old me to jack it back up and secure it. So I knew the mirror was still active just by being on my property. And I once again, by myself, dragged the mirror outside the garage, leaned it up on the side of the garage with the glass facing the wall. You know, there it sat for a little while. I know the mirror is cursed, but I've got no fear of it. The next morning, I noticed my dogs are laying around something on my hillside over here. And they lay around things like this. It's not unusual. They wanted me to see something. So I go and look at it, and it was a dead armadillo. It looked like it had maybe a week or two of decay, I would guess. Not that big a deal. I thought, I'll come back and clean it up later. So the dogs came back to the house with me, now knowing that I'd seen it. And I forgot about it and went about my day. And the next morning, I see my dogs laying on another hill, this direction this time. So I go investigate it, and was the same thing. Another dead armadillo in the same state of decay. So I'm very busy, so I'll remember to collect that later today. Yeah, being my age, getting forgetful is just routine. So the third morning, I wake up, I go out, and buzzards are circling the house like a big black cloud. And again, my dogs are in a different location with what turns out to be yet another armadillo in the same state of decay. That's when I noticed an overpowering smell of death. So I start collecting the armadillos, and I pick them all up, but still I can smell death lingering. So I follow it, and I find yet another dead armadillo. And when I finish collecting them, there's probably 6 or 7 of them. They made a perfect circle around my house. The same size circle the buzzards were making in the sky, only it was on the ground. My wife almost dying, the water damage, my garage roof almost caving in, the warning from the spiders, and now death making a circle around my house. The mirror had to go. So the next thing I do is I take black spray paint, and without looking into the mirror or even giving it my reflection, I painted the glass black. I didn't want to break it. I wanted it off the property intact. So I load it onto the truck, careful not to break it, but I didn't care beyond that. So I take it to the dump and I push it off the truck unbroken. But as I drive away, I could see the beautiful stained wooden frame shining like royalty in my truck mirror. And I also seen that an old man, he took notice of it as well. So I knew it was too big and heavy for him to retrieve, but I still wonder if I shouldn't have broken it. Since removing the cursed object, I've prayed and anointed the house with oil, and the smell of death has gone from us. Everything has returned to normal, no curses, yet there's always attacks from the enemy. I just haven't given them an open invite into my home. Well, that's the conclusion to what happened with the cursed mirror. And for those who have little faith, or those who have great faith, pride in being innocent and pride in confidence can open the door to the spirit world. I know this sounds like a Stephen King novel, but I'm speaking the truth. But now, this type of attack isn't found every day. You have to be chosen by Yah and show weakness in order for the army of darkness to attack on this scale. There's no reason for this kind of attack on just any church person. There's really just no need for it. Why attack a house that's in bad doctrines? If they did attack with this degree, they attacked my house, they might actually see the spirit world, and that's something the demons don't want. They want to keep you doubting if the spirit world is real, which by default shows doubt that Elohim exists. While I have your attention, I'd like to thank everyone who prayed for my wife and my house during our affliction of these demonic spirits. I truly do love you. So keep armored up, my friends. You might rest from the battle, but the battle itself never takes rest. Shalom.